when you evaluate something, it's probably a word you've heard in science before. Hopefully, I know in language arts we've talked about it too. You're really looking like in depth at something, and then the text is just what you're reading. So this little chart here shows us just a good example, visual for evaluating text. When I evaluate text, I use my background knowledge, the fancy word for that is schema, and evidence from the text to predict, infer, and draw conclusions. So when we're evaluating text, we're doing all of that, right? Then it gives just an example of, or a definition for fact versus an inference, all right? Fact is something that is in the text. It's there, no arguments about it. Then an inference is what you make from the facts. It's like your prediction, your judgment using the facts. So looking here at the bottom, it says the text says plus what I say equals so. So evidence, it's like your equation, your language arts equation. Evidence, facts, clues, plus my thoughts equals your inference. We're going to do our first practice with the reading from last week. I know you have read this, but just for the sake of this review, I am going to read it again, and we're just going to answer 3 questions on it. So, all right, so the title is Fish Cheeks. Sorry. So again, we're focusing on evaluating the text. So as always, you should look at your images before, maybe make some annotations, some predictions about the title, Fish Cheeks. That's very strange. Is it about a fish? Oh, look, it looks like it might be food. And you can always preview the questions if you would like. So I'll start reading here. I fell in love with the minister's son the winter I turned 14. Oh, that gives me a little background. So the writer is 13. He was not Chinese, but as white as Mary in the manger. Oh, so our other background, the author is Chinese, even though I knew that from reading this. For Christmas, I prayed for this blonde-haired boy, Robert, and a slim new American nose. When I found out that my parents had invited the minister's family over for Christmas Eve dinner, I cried, "What would Robert think of our shabby Chinese Christmas? What would he think of our noisy Chinese relatives who lacked proper American manners? What terrible disappointment would he feel upon seeing not a roasted turkey and sweet potatoes, but Chinese food?" On Christmas Eve, I saw that my mother had outdone herself in creating a strange menu. She was pulling black veins out of the backs of fleshy prawns, seafood. The kitchen was littered with appalling mounds of raw food. Well, appalling, that's a very strong word. A slimy rock cod with bulging eyes that pleaded not to be thrown into a pan of hot oil. Tofu, which looked like stacked wedges of rubbery white sponges. A bowl soaking dried fungus back to life. Ew. A plate of squid, their backs crisscrossed with knife markings so they resembled bicycle tires. So if I was making annotations, if this was a different kind of reading lesson, I would definitely highlight all of the words she's using. She does not seem to like this dinner her mom is trying to do. And then they arrived, the minister's family and all my relatives, in a clamor of doorbells and rumpled Christmas packages. Robert grunted hello, and I pretended he was not worthy of existence. Dinner threw me deeper into despair. My relatives licked the ends of their chopsticks and reached across the table, dipping them into the dozen or so plates of food. Robert and his family waited patiently for platters to be passed to them. My relatives murmured with pleasure when my mother brought out 2 whole steamed fish. Robert grimaced. Then my father poked his chopsticks just below the fisheye and plucked out the soft meat. "Amy, your favorite," he said, offering me the tender fish cheek. Ah, there's the title. I wanted to disappear. At the end of the meal, my father leaned back and belched loudly, thanking my mother for her fine cooking. It's a polite Chinese custom to show you are satisfied, explained my father to our astonished guest. Robert was looking down at his plate with a reddened face. The minister managed to muster up a quiet burp. I was stunned into silence for the rest of the night. After everyone had gone, my mother said to me, "You want to be the same as American girls on the outside." She handed me an early gift. It was a mini skirt in beige tweed, but inside you must always be Chinese. You must be proud you are different. Your only shame is to have shame. And even though I didn't agree with her then, I knew that she understood how much I had suffered during the evening's dinner. It wasn't until many years later, long after I had gotten over my crush on Robert, that I was able to fully appreciate her lesson and the true purpose behind our particular menu. For Christmas Eve that year, she had chosen all my favorite foods. All right, oh, I like that passage. Okay, so looking at this, we're just going to practice 1, 3, and 6. What does the menu description in paragraph 3 reveal about how the narrator views her family's cultural traditions? Okay, so before I even look at that, I'm going to kind of go back to paragraph 3. Yep, it's right here. This is where, I remember she was describing the food. She said black veins out of the fleshy prawns, littered, appalling. She has all of those words right there. Black veins. It's not anything you want to put in your mouth. Bulging eyes that pleaded, so they're like begging not to be thrown. Oh, rubbery? Does that sound like something you want to eat? Something that's rubbery? Dried fungus. Are you kidding me? That's what people have in between their dirty toes. Oh, bicycle tires. Okay. So I'm seeing the way that she's describing all the food does not sound great. All right. A, she views them as humorous. B, she views them as disgusting. C, she views them as honorable. Or D, she views them as annoying. Well, I can certainly cross out to honorable, to have honor. I don't believe anything in the text is proving that, right? I'm using my background knowledge, my schema. Do people eat bicycle tires? No. Is the word appalling something that goes with food? No. So I'm using the facts and what I know. We crossed out humorous too. There was nothing really funny about this. She wasn't trying to be sarcastic or make a joke. She was actually just describing what she saw. So we have disgusting left. Does that make sense? And guys, I'm sorry. I feel like I might have missed one to cross out. It's hard because I can't write on here. But disgusting, does that make sense with what I said? Yes, 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 yes. So ding, 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 that would be correct. All right, so like I said, we're going to skip to 3. Which piece of evidence best reveals the narrator's feelings about her family's behavior during dinner? Okay, so this question looks like it's going to be about the passage overall. So let's read our choices first. Let's go back and double check. So which piece of evidence, okay, so which part from the text reveals or shows the narrator's feelings about her family's behavior? So I am going to see which answer is showing me how the narrator felt about her family. Well, I kind of remember that part. I remember that this was it during paragraph 5 and paragraph 6. She was kind of talking about it. She said she wanted, oh my goodness, to disappear. That's kind of shows how she feels. Let's see, over here, she said, I was stunned to silence for the rest of the night. Okay. We know her mom's talking about shame. So let's see if that can help us. So, and then they arrived, the minister's family and all my relatives, and a clamor of doorbells and rumpled Well, this does not really seem to be talking about dinner. Okay, Robert and his family waited patiently for platters to be passed. Well, this is about dinner, so I won't cross this answer out yet. I was stunned into silence for the rest of the night. Oh my goodness, I highlighted that one. Okay, and even though I didn't agree with her then, I knew that she understood. Well, this was after, this was paragraph 8. So we can already cross out A and D because it's not evidence about dinner, right? Cool, so we have B and C left. Robert and his family waited patiently. Well, that's not really saying how she felt about her family's behavior. She's describing who? Robert's family. So C, does C make sense? Yes. Does it go with what the question is asking? Yes. She was stunned to silence. Why? Because her father burped and then Robert's dad felt like he had to burp. So she was super embarrassed of that. All right, and then question number 6. What does paragraph 8 reveal about how the narrator's point of view changed as she got older? All right, I am focusing on paragraph 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 is the last one right here. I'm going to reread that paragraph. And even though I didn't agree with her then, I knew that she understood how much I had suffered during the evening's dinner. It wasn't until many years later, long after I had gotten over my crush on Robert, that I was able to fully appreciate her lesson and the true purpose behind our particular menu. For Christmas that year, she had chosen all my favorite foods. Okay, so I'm going to say, what does it reveal about the narrator's point of view and how it changed? A, she realized the minister's son was not as friendly as she thought. Feel like, well, she just said she got over her crush. Let's see. B, she learned to love her mother's cooking, which she previously hated. Oh my goodness, come on, people. No. X, C, she regretted not expressing her real emotions to Robert and his family. She learned to appreciate her family and her Chinese American identity. Okay, so definitely we're crossing out B and C, right? So how did her point of view change? Well, looking at this and looking at my evidence, I want to know how her point of view changed. Right here, she really didn't say anything about Robert being rude or not as friendly. She learned to appreciate her family. Oh my goodness, it even has this word right here, appreciate her lesson. Okay. And she's realizing her mom chose her favorite foods. And then right here it says, even though I didn't agree with her then, I knew she understood. So ding, 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 D is the correct answer. All right, so next one, let's look at the text from this week. And like I said, we're only going to do a few questions. And I am going to read it just for the sake of being able to go back and answer the question. So this one is a little different from the previous text because it is a nonfiction. It's an informational text. So in my preview again is talking about living things based on the similarities. The title is Strength and Numbers. That's interesting. And there's a picture of a bee. All right, so let's start. So I'm going to make my connection with science, it looks like. Let's take a minute and classify you. No, this will not hurt. Let's see. You are a person, right? You belong to a group called students, okay? You spend your day at school with other students. Well, normally, your school is filled with other people who are not students, but help the students learn. Did I get all that right? Normally, yes, but not during COVID. It is very helpful to find out how a living thing fits into the world and how it changes the things around it. By knowing what kind of human you are, I can probably tell when you wake up, what you study, what you eat, maybe even what you want to be when you grow up. Here, I will show you how to do it. It all begins with one living thing. You are a person, one organism. Pick an animal. I am going to guess you picked a slug. No, maybe I do not know everything about you. How about a bee? An organism is one living thing. It can be anything from a piece of grass to a chicken to a blue whale to you. Think of it as one thing that needs energy to keep on living. This is what makes an organism different from dirt or air. This bee of ours cannot buzz alone. Just as you belong to a group of students, all living things belong to one group. A lot of living things will be born together and stay in places where there is food they can eat. You stay with students because you all learn together. When talking about living things in general, though, we say it's because they can make babies together. A species is a group of living things that make babies with each other, but not other living things. It's like a club, only for bees. Okay. Students hang out in schools. Bees hang out in a hive. They live together because they are stronger in numbers. They all have the same needs when it comes to food and homes. That means bees can help each other find pollen and students help each other learn new things. A population is a group of the same kind of living thing all living together. They stay strong by staying together. It's a lot easier to squish one bee than it is a swarm of bees coming right at you. Bees need more than just other bees. They can't eat other bees. They can't build their hive out of bees. They need many different kinds of living things around them. They need flowers, and the flowers need the bees to help them make seeds. After the bees make honey, there will be bears to come eat the hive so there are not too many bees. A community is a lot of different kinds of populations living together. Bees, flowers, bears. At your school, that means students, teachers, the janitor. No living thing can live without many other living things around it. Okay, now I'm kind of going back to the title, Strength in Numbers. Okay, I see the connection. By figuring out how a living thing works in the world, we can understand so much more about how it affects everything around it. You cannot learn about bees without learning how they act with other bees. You cannot learn about bees without flowers and maybe even bears. You cannot learn about students without learning about teachers and principals. Nothing grows alone. Interesting. All right, so looking at our question, as I said, we're only going to look at 1 and 2. It says Part A, which statement best identifies the central idea of the text? Okay, I know central idea. That is like my main idea, right? They're just tricking me. They're using other words. A, living things. So I'm thinking of the whole text. Living things are grouped together, but only individuals can change their environments. Okay. B, living things can grow or shrink based on how well the species works by itself. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? C, living things interact with similar organisms but need different species to survive. Okay. Living things need to actually live together in order to be called a species. Okay. I feel like D and A I can definitely cross out. First of all, A, no, sorry, definitely I was going to cross out B, but B I can definitely cross out because grow or shrink, I'm not sure we even talked about that. And D also because I think the text talked about this, but it certainly wasn't the main idea, the whole idea. All right, so then looking, I have living things are grouped together, but only individuals can change their environments. Well, that doesn't really seem to make sense. I do remember in the text, it was talking about groups. I remember this one part where it was talking about you can smush a bee, but it would be hard to smush a swarm of bees. And it says not alone. So I feel like it's not individual. Okay, C, living things interact with similar organisms, but need different species to survive. Oh, I remember that. And that was especially the end, right? But that was kind of what each paragraph talked about. So C makes the most sense. All right, let's look at question 2, part B. Okay, so they go hand in hand. which quote, oh, so this is really looking at text evidence. Which quote from the text best supports the answer to part A? So I had to answer 1 to answer 2. So answering 1, we said living things interact with similar organisms, okay, but need different species to survive. So I want to see which quote from here supports my other answer. A, it all begins with one living thing. You are a person, one organism. Well, you're right, that was in paragraph 2. However, that doesn't support this because this I'm talking about lots of other ones. B, it's a lot easier to squish one. Oh my goodness, I said that. It's a lot easier to squish one bee than it is a swarm of bees coming right at you. Okay, well, I'm going to save that one first of all because I was thinking about that. And it's talking about one versus more. Okay, okay. C, no living thing can live without many other living things around it. Oh, well, I know that one makes sense with this answer. And the need different species to survive. Or D, you cannot learn about bees without learning how they act with other bees. Well, that doesn't really go with this one. So now I have 2 left, and C. And looking at this, I'm going to read this one more time. Living things interact with similar organisms, but need different species to survive. What do you guys think? Ding, ding, ding. C is correct. No living thing can live without many other living things around it. So that is what we're talking about, different species. Those are other living things. Don't get confused because it's C and C. It didn't have to be. It just worked out that way. I hope you got that one correct on your own. So just to sum it up, remember when you're looking and evaluating text evidence, it is not always only in what the text says. You have to really look and think about the things you know, what the question is asking. Like I said, things you know, your background knowledge, all of that. I hope that this was helpful. As always, please reach out if there's anything we can help you with virtually. This is so different doing just in front of a computer instead of in front of you guys. Miss you. Bye.